thank you for watching. My name is Mark John Sternal, and this is the video version of Guitar Total Scales, Techniques, and Applications, also known as TSTA. In this course, we will learn to play and make music on the entire fretboard of the guitar. Rather than learn a short scale or note pattern, we're going to learn to apply these notes anywhere on the neck. We're also going to learn popular tricks and techniques to use with these scale notes, as well as patterns and applications, all of which are used to play and make every known style of music. Since this is a course on scales, we're going to focus on several styles of music. And throughout this video, we will be using several guitars, acoustic and electric, along with amplifiers and several different tone settings. The first part of this video includes a bonus beginner section to ensure that anyone, regardless of playing level, will be able to use this course. If this is your first time using TSTA, I highly recommend that you play along from beginning to end. Follow each section in order. Section 2 covers basic guitar fundamentals, which I've found many players don't know, and therefore struggle even though they may have been playing for several years. If you decide to skip a section and later find that you do not understand a term, technique, or phrase, chances are it was explained in the section that you skipped. Once we've covered the basics and fundamentals, the real guitar playing starts in Section 3. Each lesson includes a detailed explanation, then a slow or beginner speed demonstration, followed by a faster, advanced speed. If you are just learning the guitar, don't worry if you cannot play the faster sections. You will find that the beginner speed increases for each lesson, and by the time you've completed this video course, you will be able to play the advanced speeds by starting over again from the beginning. For advanced players, I strongly recommend that you play along with both the beginner and advanced speeds for a thorough guitar workout. When you have finished this course, you will have at your command an unlimited musical vocabulary for your guitar. This section is for complete beginners. I want to make sure that any guitarist at any playing level can use this video. So if you consider yourself a little more advanced and you can already read tab, note charts, or sheet music, you can go ahead and skip this section and move on to guitar fundamentals in Section 2. For this section of the video, I'll be playing a Gibson J165 acoustic guitar. Everything I play in this section can be applied to both electric and acoustic. By the most simplified definition, a guitar is made of 6 strings and several frets. There are acoustic guitars and electric guitars. The strings are numbered 1 through 6, starting with the thinnest string being number 1, through the thickest string being number 6. There is also a nut. The nut is sometimes referred to as the 0 fret or open. Frets are the bars that run across the fingerboard horizontal to the strings. The frets are also numbered, starting with the nut being 0 or open. Most guitars have more than 20 frets. Music is made on the guitar by simply picking a string. You can pick a string open without touching any of the frets or strings, or you could place one of your fingers directly behind a fret and pick that string. If the fretted note is dull or muted, check for these problems. 1. Is your finger directly above the fret wire? If so, move it back directly behind the fret, apply pressure, and pick the string. Another problem you might be having is if your finger is too far back away from the fret wire. This requires a lot of unnecessary pressure. To correct this, slide your finger closer to the fret so that it's directly behind it, apply pressure, and pick the string. That's all there is to it. If you could play this note, consider yourself a brand new guitarist. Here is your first finger placement exercise. On the first string, place your first or index finger directly behind the first fret, and then pick that string. Next, take your second or middle finger and place that directly behind the second fret on the first string. Now take your third or ring finger and place that directly behind the third fret on the first string. And finally, take your fourth or pinky finger and place that directly behind the fourth fret on the first string. So altogether, you've got first fret, first finger, second fret, second finger, third fret, third finger, fourth fret, fourth finger, and that is your 4-finger exercise. I want to show you where my thumb is as well. I keep it pretty much directly behind my middle finger, but in the middle of the neck. So that's perfect thumb placement right there. If you have smaller hands, you can move up the fingerboard where the frets are closer together. On the first string, move your index finger up to the 9th fret. Then play the same exercise. You could also play it in reverse. And even on other strings. The idea is to get used to playing notes on the fretboard. This is chord charts, traditional music notation, and tablature, also known as tab. This is a note chart. Each vertical line, up and down line, represents a string. From left to right, the vertical lines represent the 6th or thickest string, then the 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st string on the far right. Each horizontal line represents frets. Dots are placed on the note chart to show you which strings and frets to hold in order to play scales or chords. In some cases, like this example, hollow dots represent an open string. This note chart shows 3 dots on the first string. The dots represent the notes to play on the fretboard. To play the notes below, simply pick the first string open, then the first string 1st fret, then the 3rd fret. You can also play it descending by picking the first string 3rd fret, then the 1st fret, then open. Here we are using more than one string. To play the notes on this chart, pick the 2nd string open, 1st fret, 3rd fret, then play the 1st string open, then the 1st fret, then the 3rd fret. You can also play this descending by starting with the 1st string 3rd fret, 1st fret, open, then play the 2nd string 3rd fret, then the 1st fret, then open. When notes are intended to be played on higher frets, the fret number is listed to the left or right of the chart. The previous exercise did not use fret numbers because the notes were near the open position or within range of the nut. In this exercise, the number 7 tells us that the lowest fret we use is the 7th fret. To play this section, start with the 1st string 7th fret, followed by the 8th fret, then the 10th fret. To play it descending, start with the 1st string 10th fret, then 8th fret, then the 7th fret. This is a chord chart. It looks identical to a note chart, however it is played differently. Notice there is only one note on each string, where on note charts there were several notes. Chord charts show you groups of notes that can be played or strummed together. Dots are placed on the chord chart to show you which strings and which frets to hold to play the chord. Sometimes numbers are placed under the chord chart to show you which fingers to use for each note. This chord chart shows 3 X's and 3 O's. The X's mean that you do not play the strings that they line up with. The O's represent open notes for the string that they line up with. To play the chord below, simply strum or pick strings 3, 2, and 1 so that they all ring out at the same time. Exercise 2 adds a fretted note to the chord chart from exercise 1. The new note would be held using your 1st finger on the 3rd string behind the 1st fret. To play the chord below, strum or pick strings 3, 2, and 1 so they ring out at the same time. Here we are using all strings. The 6th or thickest string is open. The 5th string note is held down with your 2nd finger. The 4th string note is held down with your 3rd finger. The 3rd string note is held down with your 1st finger. The 2nd and 1st strings are open. Strum or pick all 6 strings so that they ring out at the same time. It is often necessary to hold down 2 or more strings with one finger. This technique is called barring. Chords using this technique are called bar chords. If you are having trouble with this chord, move on for now. In a few short sections, your fingers will be strong enough to play all of these notes. Just like the numbered frets for note charts, when chords are intended to be played on higher frets, the fret number is listed next to the chord chart. The previous exercise did not use fret numbers because the chord was in an open position or within range of the nut. This exercise has us playing a bar chord on the 5th fret of the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd strings. Tablature, or tab, is sometimes referred to as the 6-line staff or the guitar staff. Each line represents a string, the bottom line being the 6th and lowest pitched string, the thickest string, and the top line representing the 1st or highest pitched string, the thinnest string. Instead of using musical notes for each line, numbers are used to represent the fret that is to be played. For example, if a 4 is written on the 3rd line, you would play the 4th fret on the 3rd string. If a 4 is written on the 3rd line followed by a 5, you would play the 4th fret on the 3rd string followed by the 5th fret on the 3rd string. If you were to play more than one note at a time, the notes would be written one on top of the other. If a 4 is written on the 3rd line and directly below it a 5 is written on the 4th line, you would play the 4th fret on the 3rd string along with the 5th fret on the 4th string all at the same time. You'll be able to use this video even if you do not learn to read traditional notation. However, we have included an introduction in this section. Music is traditionally written on a staff. A staff consists of 5 lines and 4 spaces, which represent the different notes on the musical scale. The notes represented on the staff come from our musical alphabet. They are A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. After the G note, the alphabet starts over with A. This also works in reverse. If you are playing or writing the notes backwards, G, F, E, D, C, B, A, G, F, and so on. Guitar music is written on the treble clef. Whenever you see this symbol, the music can be played on a guitar. The notes on the treble clef start with E on the very bottom line. The space above E represents an F note. The line above F represents a G. Musical notes are written on the staff. Notes can extend above and below the staff by the use of ledger lines. There are also different versions of most notes, called accidentals. Accidentals consist of sharps and flats. To make a note sharp is to raise it 1 fret on the guitar. To make a note flat is to lower it 1 fret on the guitar. One way of writing sharps or flats on the staff is to place the symbol before the note you want to change. Another way of writing sharps or flats is to use a key signature. Simply put, a key signature is a group of sharps or flats at the very beginning of a staff line. The sharp or flat note in the key signature indicates that all notes of the same name will be altered throughout the piece of music. For example, if the key signature has a sharp symbol on an F, you are to play F sharp in place of F for the remainder of the piece of music, unless otherwise indicated by another accidental symbol. When a sharp or flat note needs to be changed back to its original non-accidental state, a natural symbol is used. Most guitar music uses both tablature and staff notation, which allows you to choose which method of reading you would like to use. Some guitar music uses all 3 methods. In this example, you can choose between the note chart, standard notation, and tab. All 3 methods indicate the same chord, followed by the scale. Bar lines are the vertical lines that divide tablature and staff music into sections. A measure is the space between bar lines. This section includes a comprehensive look at the fundamentals of the guitar. I am of strong belief that musicians should know their instruments, and you as a guitarist should know your guitar. For this section, I'll be playing a Gibson SG electric guitar, but the lesson is for both acoustic and electric. Here I'm playing the SG through an Epiphone Valve Junior half stack with the volume set at 9 o'clock. There are no effects being used, just volume. The musical alphabet consists of 12 notes: A sharp and B flat, B, C sharp, D flat, D sharp and E flat, E, F sharp and G flat, G sharp and A flat, and A again. Notice that the 2nd, 5th, 7th, 10th, and 12th notes have two different names. For example, the 2nd note can be an A sharp or B flat. It is the same note, but it has two different names. The notes A, B, C, D, E, F, and G are called basic or natural notes. The notes A sharp and B flat, C sharp and D flat, D sharp and E flat, F sharp and G flat, and G sharp and A flat are called accidentals. Accidental notes will be used later on in this study course. Each of the 6 strings of the guitar have been assigned a specific note. The 6th string, which is the top and heaviest string, is an E note. It's called the low E string. When this string is played open with no frets, it will produce an E pitch. Each fret after that will bring you to the next note in the musical alphabet. So for example, if you play the 1st fret on the 6th string, it will produce an F note. The 2nd fret will produce an F sharp or G flat note. The 3rd fret will produce a G note. Next, a G sharp A flat note. Then an A note. The 6th fret will produce an A sharp or B flat note. 7th fret is B, 8th fret is C, and so on. Once you reach the 12th fret, the musical alphabet will repeat itself starting at the E note. The 5th string open is an A note. The 4th string is a D note. The 3rd string is a G. The 2nd string is B. And the 1st string is the high E string. Altogether, starting with the 6th string, the open notes are E, A, D, G, B, and E. Here's a fretboard note chart provided for your reference. Some notes have been highlighted and are connected by a line. The notes that share the same color highlight share the same pitch and will aid you in tuning your guitar. For example, if your low E string is in tune already, you can use the A note on the 5th fret, 6th string, to tune the open A string. Simply play the 5th fret of the low E string, then play the open A string, and compare the two notes. If needed, adjust the pitch of your 5th string to match that of the 6th string by tightening or loosening the tuning ped for the 5th string. You can apply this to the 5th fret of the 5th string to tune the 4th string open to a D note. Then the 5th fret of the 4th string to tune the 3rd string to a G note. You can use the 4th fret of the 3rd string to tune the 2nd string to a B note. And finally, the 5th fret of the 2nd string to tune the 1st string to an E note. If you're having a hard time tuning your guitar by ear, I recommend an electric tuner. Electric tuners are inexpensive and will save you from the frustration that comes with playing a guitar that is out of tune. The tuner that I'm using in this video is a Boss TU-80. It has a microphone that picks up the pitch of acoustic instruments or a plug for electric instruments. To tune your instrument, pick an open string. If the display lights up to the left of center, that means your string is too loose and you need to tighten the tuning peg. If the display lights up to the right, it means your string is too tight and you need to loosen the tuning peg. Positioning of your hands is very important when playing the guitar. Pay close attention to this section and get in the habit of keeping your fingers and hands in the proper positions at all times. Hold your pick between your thumb and index finger. The tip of the pick should be pointing in the direction of your index finger. Always alternate your picking strokes. Down, up, down, up. Bend your wrist when picking or your elbow. Avoid any movement of your thumb or index finger. Your other 3 fingers should be rolled into your palm or stretched out and braced against the body of your guitar below the first string when you're picking. If you're a beginner guitarist, or if this is a new technique for you, take some time to practice it. The following exercises will help you develop this technique. To help keep steady time, we're going to be using a Boss DB30. This metronome is set at a very slow 40 beats per minute. There are 4 beats per measure. A quarter note receives 1 beat. The count is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's also written below the piece of music on your screen. Use alternate picking strokes starting with the downstroke. Let's begin. If that was too easy for you, you could always speed up the tempo. For example, here's the same exercise 3 times faster at 120 beats per minute. The next picking exercise is written in 3/4 timing using quarter notes. There are 3 beats per measure. The metronome is set at 50 beats per minute. The count is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This final picking exercise is written in 3/4 timing using eighth notes. There are 3 beats per measure. An eighth note receives half a beat. The count is 1 and 2 and 3 and. The Boss DB30 is set at 50 beats per minute. Get in the habit of positioning the fingers of your playing hand 1 fret apart each. On the 6th string, press down on the 1st fret with your 1st finger, 2nd fret 2nd finger, 3rd fret 3rd finger, and 4th fret 4th finger. Keep your thumb behind your middle finger in the center of the neck. Many guitarists allow their thumb to hang over the top of the guitar. There are some techniques that require this positioning, but overall it will slow you down when playing scales. When you are not playing a note, your fingers should remain in this position 1/2 inch above the strings. Always keep your thumb in contact with the neck. This positioning should be used anywhere on the fretboard, so if you move your hand up the neck or down the neck, your fingers will stay 1 fret apart each. Here are some common fingerings which you will find throughout this video. There are only 3, and once you learn them, you will be able to play almost everything taught in this course. The first fingering is called 1, 2, 4, and just like it suggests, you use your 1st, 2nd, and 4th fingers of your playing hand, skipping the 3rd finger. Here it is, starting on the 7th fret of the 6th string. Next we have the 1, 3, 4 fingering, where you use your 1st finger, skip your 2nd, use your 3rd, then your 4th. Here it is on the 7th fret. Finally, we have the most difficult fingering, where you will use your first finger, skip a fret by stretching your second finger, then use your fourth finger. Here it is on the 7th fret. The natural scale consists of the notes A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. It's called the natural scale because it consists of all the natural notes and no accidentals, meaning no sharp or flat notes. Scales are the key to writing music. The notes of a scale complement each other and can be used together to create melodies, harmonies, and chords, giving you a solid foundation to build or write your own songs, as well as learn your favorite pieces from other musicians. Here I'll be playing a Gibson ES335 electric guitar. As in most cases, this lesson can be applied to both acoustic and electric instruments. I'm playing through a Blues Custom 30 amplifier by Epiphone with a clean blues setting. The two most common types of scales are the major and minor scales. A major scale has what some would describe as a bright or happy sound. A minor scale has what some might describe as a mellow, soft, or sad sound. Rather than learning major and minor scales separate, TSTA gives you a jump start by teaching you one scale that encompasses both, the natural scale. Scales have what we call key centers or root notes. To determine whether or not a scale is major or minor, in this case would depend on the root note. The root note is the main note of a song, or in this case, a scale. For example, when using the notes of the natural scale, if our root note is a C note, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, our scale is major. If our root note is an A note, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, our scale is minor. Both the C major and A minor scales share the same notes. This is also known as a relative minor scale. So in the key of C, A is the relative minor. Pay close attention to major and minor root notes. Knowing their locations will give you the ability to write or play a song in any major or minor key. This will also allow you to change keys in the middle of any song. There are 7 notes in the natural scale. In C major, there is C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. Therefore, we have 7 scale positions. Each position starts with a different scale note. The beauty of these 7 positions is that they are universal for every key of music. So later on, when we start learning key changes, you will already know the finger patterns. Since E is the lowest possible note on a standard guitar, we're going to begin our scale positions with the low E note. E is the 3rd note in the C major scale. So the E position is also known as the 3rd position. Let's begin with a step-by-step approach to playing our scale. What we want to accomplish here is proper fingering and picking technique. First, we'll slowly go through the scale, making sure to use the correct fingers. Then we'll practice it at 2 different speeds. Starting with the notes on the first measure, the 6th string notes. The E note is played with the downstroke of the pick on the open 6th string. The F note is played with an upstroke of the pick while holding the 1st fret using your 1st finger. Then the G note is played with a downstroke of the pick while holding the 3rd fret using your 3rd finger. Then starting on the 2nd measure, the 5th string notes, play the open A with an upstroke. Play B with a downstroke, 2nd fret, 2nd finger. Play C with an upstroke, 3rd fret, 3rd finger. Allow each note to ring out until the next note is played. For example, on the 6th string, when you're playing the F on the 1st fret, hold that note with your 1st finger until you've played the 3rd fret. Then lift the 1st finger from the 1st fret. This will ensure a smooth transition between notes. We left off on the 3rd measure, the 4th string notes. Play the D with a downstroke for the open note. Play the E with an upstroke, 2nd finger, 2nd fret. and F with a downstroke, 3rd finger, 3rd fret. The 4th measure, 3rd string notes, pick G with an upstroke on the open 3rd string. A is a downstroke, 2nd fret, 2nd finger. B is an upstroke, 4th fret, 4th finger. The 2nd and 1st string notes use the stretch finger patterns we learned at the end of section 2. 5th measure, 2nd string notes. C is a downstroke, 1st fret, 1st finger. D is an upstroke, 3rd fret, 2nd finger. E is a downstroke, 5th fret, 4th finger. 6th measure, 1st string notes. F, upstroke, 1st fret, 1st finger. G, downstroke, 3rd fret, 2nd finger. A, upstroke, 5th fret, 4th finger. Remember to keep the thumb of your playing hand directly behind your middle finger in the center of the neck. For the scale position we just learned, your thumb should be behind the 2nd fret for the 6th, 5th, 4th, and 3rd strings. Then slide it up behind the 3rd fret for the 2nd and 1st string. Now that we have dissected this position and learned the correct picking and fingering, let's play along with the tempo. For the beginners, we'll start out slow, setting the boss metronome at 40 beats per minute, then we'll speed it up a bit. We're playing 3 beats per measure. The count is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We are also going to learn the scale pattern descending. It's the same fingering, but everything is played in reverse. Here's the scale at 80 beats per measure. If that was too slow for you, don't worry, we'll be playing it a lot faster before the next section of this video. Here's a tip for beginners. An entire piece of sheet music could sometimes look menacing. Break it down into small sections that you could handle. For example, focus on the first measure. Play it, then play it again. In fact, loop it over and over until it becomes smooth. Now learn the second measure by itself. When it becomes comfortable, combine the two measures. Keep adding measure by measure, and pretty soon you'll be playing entire musical pieces in one sitting. F is the 4th note in the C major scale, so it is also called the 4th position C major scale. Use fingers 1, 2, and 4 for the 6th, 5th, and 4th strings. Use fingers 1, 3, and 4 for the 3rd and 2nd string, and back to fingers 1, 2, and 4 for the 1st. For the F position, your thumb should be behind the 3rd fret for the top 4 strings, then slide it up behind the 5th fret for the 2nd and 1st string. Remember, allow each note to ring out until the next one is played, and always use alternating. We'll play this slow, then speed up, starting at 60 beats per minute or 60 BPM. and descending. And for more advanced players, here it is at 120 BPM. Play along with a metronome like the Boss DB30. Start at a slow pace, and when you can repeat a section a few times without error, increase the tempo 3 to 5 notches. If you can still play it comfortably at that pace, increase the tempo more. Do this until you reach your breaking point and make a note of the tempo. If your top speed is 100 beats per minute, try 105 the next day, then 110 the day after. Keep doing this and you'll be playing lightning fast in no time. Use your first, second, and fourth fingers for the top 5 strings and your first, third, and fourth fingers for the first string. Place your thumb behind the 5th fret for the top 4 strings, and then slide it up behind the 6th fret for the second and first strings. 70 BPM for a slow run. And reverse. .140 BPM for advanced players. Use fingers 1, 3, and 4 for the 6th and 5th strings, and fingers 1, 2, and 4 for the remaining 4 strings. And allow each note to ring out until the next one is played. Place your thumb behind the 6th and 7th fret for the top 4 strings, and then slide it up behind the 8th fret for the second and first strings. Here's this position at 80 BPM. And at 160 BPM. Fingers 1, 2, and 4 for the 6th and 5th string notes. Fingers 1, 3, and 4 for the 4th and 3rd string. And fingers 1, stretch 2, and 4 for the 2nd and 1st string. Keep your thumb behind the 8th fret for the top 4 strings and the 10th fret for the 2nd and 1st strings. Here's the scale at 90 BPM. .180. Fingers 1, 2, and 4 for the top 4 strings, and 1, 3, and 4 for the rest. Keep your thumb behind the 10th fret for the top 4 strings, 12th fret for the 2nd and 1st strings. 100 BPM. BPM. Use fingers 1, 3, and 4 for the 6th string, and fingers 1, 2, and 4 for the rest. Keep your thumb behind the 11th or 12th fret for the top 4 strings, and then slide it up behind the 13th fret for the rest, at 100 BPM. BPM. Here's the E or 3rd position again. This is the octave of the open position. Notice that the notes in this position are patterned identically to the notes of the open position. It's the same position played 1 octave or 12 notes or frets higher. This can be applied to every position. F starting with the 13th fret, G starting with the 15th fret, A with the 17th, B with the 19th, and so on. Here's the new E position played at 100 BPM. And again at 200 BPM. If you're interested in memorizing these scale positions or learning to play them faster, then this bonus section is for you. We're going to ascend up the neck, increasing the speed as we change positions, and then descend down the neck. We'll start at 100 beats per minute and get up to 250 beats per minute. Let's go. We're using a Gibson Les Paul Custom electric guitar. The Blues Custom 30 amplifier is set at a heavy blues tone called Texas Heat. People often ask me, how do you write guitar solos? The answer can be both simple and complex at the same time. I'll start out by answering simply, and throughout this video, I'll give you ideas for making your leads and solos more complex. The most simple way to create a guitar solo is to use the scale notes. Just stay within the scale notes only. Remember, scales are the foundation of music. We use scales to structure every audible part of a song, the melody, the harmony, and the chords. Try any combination of scale notes. If you're playing with another musician, he or she should use chords taken from the scales you are playing. For example, C, F, and G are scale notes that can be used as chords. You could play the natural scale along with these chords for leads or solos. To make your solo stand out, you could use the different techniques and applications provided in this video and even invent a few of your own. As you get more comfortable with soloing, you can begin to change keys and even scales during a song, lead, or solo. There's no end to the possibilities of what you can do to any single note. Make phrases out of these scales. Take this scale and explore every possibility. Music is emotion. Learn to put your personal feelings into your playing. Happiness, sadness, love, hate, excitement, aggression. These are your personal feelings that you can express in your music. Write them, learn them, play them fast, and play them slow. A way to get used to expressing yourself musically is with question and answer soloing. By playing any combination of scale notes other than the root or key note, you can write a melody that sounds incomplete. The lack of the root note makes the musical phrase sound like a question. So in this example, in the key of A minor, I'm playing any combination of scale notes, but I'm avoiding the A note. To complete the question phrase, play any combination of scale notes. This time we'll end on the A note. This will resolve the musical phrase by posing as an answer. Here's a slower example in the key of A minor. For the question, play the notes C, D, then E. For the answer, play notes D, C, then A. I'll play the phrase without speaking. C, D, E, and then the answer is D, C, A. Another way to play a question phrase is to play any combination of scale notes, including the root note, but do not end on the root note. And again, for the answer, any combination of scale notes, including the root note, but ending on the root note. Here's the two together. You could also play different combinations of question and answer phrases. For example, place your focus on the question by playing two question phrases and then an answer. Or for example 2, you could also drive home the focus on your answer by playing question and then two answers. Question, answer, answer. Take some time and see how many 3- and 4-note question and answer phrases you can write. Also, after you've learned a technique or application in the upcoming sections, pause this video and create new question and answer phrases by incorporating the new technique or application you've learned. For this section, I'll be using an Epiphone Casino guitar, played through the Blues Custom 30, set at a clean jazz tone. Each scale note can be used as a chord. These chords will complement each other, just as the individual scale notes complement each other. You can use these chords to write a rhythm progression, then use its individual scale notes to write leads and melodies over the chords. chords we have used so far have all been built using only scale notes. In popular music, it is common to use the scale notes as chords, but change them from major chords to minors or minor chords to majors. For example, blues and rock players often play A, D, and E major chords, yet use the minor scale for the lead guitar. The root or name of the chord is still derived from the scale, but the other notes in the chord may stray from the scale. Whether you do this or play a song that does this, the best rule is to let your ear guide you. If it sounds good to you, use it. Here's our scale played with all major chords. And here's the scale with all minor chords. The same concept can be applied to power chords, which are popular in rock and metal. These chords are built by using a combination of scale notes and its fifth tone up. And you play those two tones together, and you have a power chord. We're using a classic crunch sound on the amplifier. Just as scale notes can be used to complement each other to write leads and solos, chords can also be used together musically. Try different combinations for writing your own songs. By doing this, you'll also hear familiar chord changes found in popular music. You can enhance your chord progressions by adding vocals or lead guitar using the same scale. Once you have learned a scale, songwriting is very simple. First, your lead instrument, be it your voice or guitar, will use scale notes to create the main melody line. Then you could add harmony by following the melody line with other scale notes. You can add a chord progression using chords derived from each scale note. You could add guitar fills throughout the song using the scale notes. And even a guitar solo in the middle. All of this is done by using the same scale. This is known as playing in key. Section 6 is applications. In this section, we will learn some scale applications to be used with each scale position you have learned. Rather than playing the scale ascending or descending from string to string, applications give you different melody patterns that keep the scale and your guitar playing interesting. These will greatly enhance your playing and writing ability. Listen for these applications when you are listening to your favorite songs. You will find they are not just applied to the guitar. You will hear them in piano, voice, bass, as well as any other musical instrument. For this section, I'm using a Les Paul standard electric guitar. I'm using the Valve Junior half-stack amplifier with the volume set at about 10 o'clock. I'm also using a slight delay and a slight chorus pedal. To play increments of 2, we break the scale into patterns of 2 notes at a time. Rather than play the scale straight through, what we're going to do is play scale notes 1 and 2, 2 again, then 3, 3 then 4, 4 then 5, and so on. We're going to apply increments of 2 to the open E or third scale position. Remember to allow each note to ring out for a full count. This application is written in 2/4 timing. There are 2 beats per measure. A quarter note receives 1 beat, and the count is 1 2 1 2. Here's increments of 2 at a slow pace of 100 BPM. And now again, without the use of sheet music, test your memory and try to play this pattern descending. I highly recommend that you apply this and all applications to every scale position. Next, we have increments of 3, where we'll break the scale into patterns of 3. We're going to use the F position for this pattern, and instead of playing the scale position all the way through, which can get redundant, what we'll do is we'll break it up, play notes 1, 2, and 3, 2, 3, and 4, 3, 4, and 5, 4, 5, and 6, and so on. Allow each note to ring out for a full count. This application is written in 3/4 timing. There are 3 beats per measure. A quarter note receives 1 beat. The count is 1, 2, 3. Here it is applied to 110 BPM. Breaking the scale into patterns of 2 strings, starting with the 6th, then 5th string, 5th, then 4th, 4th and 3rd, 3rd and 2nd, 2nd and 1st, and then in reverse. This application is written in 3/4 timing using 1/8 notes. There are 3 beats per measure, and 1/8 note receives half a beat, so the count is going to be 1 and, 2 and, 3 and. Here it is applied to the 5th scale position at the slow pace of 60 BPM. These applications are written out for you to get comfortable playing them on every string of your guitar. However, you probably will not use every string in a song because it would sound monotonous. The best way to use these applications is by mixing them up with others or mixing them with chords and lead phrases. For example, you might get an interesting song riff by mixing increments of 2, then 3, then 2 strings. The last application was called 2 strings. This one is the same thing, except we're going to go back 1 note. So we'll play strings 6 and 5, then backtrack one note, then play the notes on string 5 and 4, and then back one note, and then play the notes on strings 4, then 3, back one note, 3, then 2 and back, 2 and 1 and back. And in reverse, you play the notes backwards, going with strings 1 and 2, and up one note, then 2 and 3, and so on. This application is written in 4/4 timing, using eighth notes and a quarter note. There are 4 beats per measure. An eighth note receives half a beat, quarter note receives 1 beat. So the count is going to be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Here it is applied to the A or 6th scale position at a slow pace of 65 BPM. Here's the same exercise but played with straight eighth notes. Here we're going to break the scale into patterns of 3 strings. We'll play the 6th, 5th, and 4th, 5th, 4th, and 3rd, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd, and so on. This application is written in 3/4 timing using triplets. Triplets are eighth notes written in groups of 3. A triplet receives 1/3 of a beat. The count is 1 and a, 2 and a, 3 and a. Here it is applied to the 7th scale position at a slow pace of 40 BPM. Here we'll play the notes on the 6th, 5th, and 4th string, and then go back 4 notes. Then we'll repeat the notes on the 5th, 4th, and add the 3rd string, and then go back 4 notes, and apply the pattern to the entire scale position. This application is written in 4/4 timing using 16th notes, triplets, and eighth notes. The 16th note receives 1/4 of a beat, a triplet receives 1/3 of a beat, an eighth note receives half a beat. The count is 1 E and a, 2 and a, 3 E and a, 4 and. It's a little bit tricky, you might have to listen to it once or twice and then try to play along. Here we go at a slow tempo of 40 BPM. please take time to explore different rhythms and apply them to your favorite scale positions and applications. 3 strings and back 4 notes incorporated 16th notes, triplets, and 8th notes. This in any scale pattern or application can easily be applied to a straight duration. For example, here is the descending pattern played with 16th notes. Breaking the scale into patterns of 4, play the first 4 notes, then the next 4 notes, then the next 4 notes. This application is written in 4/4 timing using quarter notes. Here it is at 130 BPM. Here's increments of 4 at double time with 8th notes. Each note receives half a beat. The count is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. To play increments of 4 using 16th notes, each note would receive a quarter of 1 beat. The count would be 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. To play increments of 4 in 3/4 time, you could play any combination of 2 quarter notes and 2 eighth notes. Using 2 quarter notes followed by 2 eighth notes, the count would be 1, 2, 3 and. Here it is at a pace of 130 BPM. Using 1 quarter note followed by 2 eighth notes followed by another quarter note, the count would be 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3. And then you could reverse it starting with 2 eighth notes followed by 2 quarter notes, and your count would be 1 and 2, 3, 1 and 2, 3. Feel free to pause this video and explore different rhythms. Apply any timing to any note or groups of notes, and be sure to experiment with different timings on all apps. Here we're playing notes 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5. Basically you're playing 4 notes ascending and then back 1 note. The pattern is written in 4/4 timing using quarter notes and eighth notes. The quarter note receives 1 beat, eighth note receives half a beat. The count is 1, 2, 3, 4, and. Here it is at 250 BPM with straight quarter notes in 5/4 timing or 5 beats per measure. Step down, step up patterns, starting with the step down pattern. Here we'll play our second scale note and then our first scale note. Next go to the third scale note and play the first, fourth then third, fifth then fourth, sixth then fifth, and up the scale. This application is written in 2/4 timing using quarter notes. There are 2 beats per measure. A quarter note receives 1 beat. The count is 1, 2. Step up is the opposite of the step down pattern. Here we're playing, say, notes 7 and 8, 6 then 7, 5 then 6, and so on. This application is written in 4/4 timing using eighth notes. An eighth note receives half a beat. The count is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I suggested that you try playing these applications with different rhythms. Here are some basic principles to help you further explore timing. This chart will show you the breakdown of notes from whole to 16th notes in 4/4 timing, equaling 4 beats per measure. I'll play the rhythm on this chart using the open B or second string. For timing, a rhythm can use any combination of note types as long as the total count equals 4 complete beats. The following are some examples of rhythm combinations using half and quarter notes. Notice that each measure equals 4 beats. In rhythm 1, hold the half note for counts 1 and 2. Play a quarter note for count 3, play a quarter note for count 4. Total beats equals 4. Repeat this rhythm over and over again. It could be applied to single notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can apply it to scale notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Applications, chords, you name it. Here's rhythm 1 applied to an E major chord at 100 BPM. For rhythm 2, hold the quarter note for count 1, half note for counts 2 and 3, hold the quarter note for count 4. Here is rhythm 2 applied to the notes E, F, and G at 100 BPM. In rhythm 3, hold a quarter note for beat 1, hold a quarter note for beat 2, and hold the half note for beats 3 and beat 4. Here's rhythm 3 applied to the power chords A5, G5, and F5. Eighth notes equal half a beat, so each count needs to be separated in 2 pulses. Instead of using basic count, 1, 2, 3, 4, eighth notes are counted 1 and, 2 and, 3 and, 4 and. The and adds the extra pulse in between each beat. In rhythm 1, the combination is half, quarter, eighth, eighth. Because the 4th beat consists of 2 eighth notes, it needs to be split into 2 accents. Instead of counting the 4th beat as 4, you need to count it as 4 and. Altogether, hold the half note for counts 1 and 2, play a quarter note for count 3, play an eighth note for 4, play an eighth note for and. Total beats equals 4. Here's rhythm 1 applied to increments of 4 in the A or 6th position. In rhythm 2, hold the quarter note for count 1, hold the half note for counts 2 and 3, and hold the eighth note for 4, hold an eighth note for and. Here's rhythm 2 applied to increments of 4 in the B or 7th position. For rhythm 3, hold the quarter note for count 1, hold an eighth note for 2, hold an eighth note for and, hold the half note for beats 3 and 4. Here's rhythm 3 applied to increments of 4 in the C or 1st position. This example uses half, quarter, eighth, and 16th notes. 16th notes equal a quarter of a beat, so each count needs to be separated into 4 pulses. In rhythm 1, the combination is half, eighth, eighth, 16th, 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 16th. Because the 4th beat consists of 4 16th notes, it needs to be split into 4 accents. Instead of counting the 4th beat as 4, you need to count it as 4, E, and Hold the half note for counts 1 and 2, play an eighth note for the 3 count, play an eighth note for the and count, a 16th note for 4, a 16th note for E, a 16th note for and, a 16th note for Here is rhythm 1 applied to the D or 2nd scale position. For rhythm 2, hold a quarter note for the 1 count, an eighth note for 2, an eighth note for and, 16th note for 3, 16th note for E, 16th note for and, 16th note for play a quarter note for the 4 count. That all equals 4 beats. Here's rhythm 2 applied to the E or 3rd position octave. By simple definition, a technique is a way to manipulate a note and make it sound different. To be able to play notes is one thing, but to move a listener or even yourself as a player, you need to do more than just play a note. You need to give it life. Although there is no substitute for soul, learning and using techniques will certainly help you achieve that status quicker. The techniques offered in this video are intended to give life to your music. As I progressed as a musician, I began to realize that a single note is just as important, if not more important, than any group of notes. Give your music life. Give each note you play an emotion. When you play the notes in this course, listen for an emotion or a feeling. They are not predetermined. There is no wrong or right emotion. It's open to what you hear and feel. This is what music is. And this is your journey to become a better musician. For this section, we're using a Zakk Wylde custom Les Paul, and we're playing it through the Valve Junior half stack with the volume way up at the 3 o'clock dial. And this is giving us a natural tube distortion. It's very loud. Our next technique is double picking. It's very basic. You're simply going to pick each note twice. Palm mute is achieved by resting the palm of your picking hand on the string you are picking. What I'm doing here is I'm allowing my pinky to lay down on the high strings in case I want to change quickly between strings during a song. Now you could also alter the duration of each note by moving your palm closer or farther to the bridge. Right here, I'm right on the bridge, but listen to what happens if I go up further away from the bridge. The symbol for using palm muting technique is a P period, M period, followed by a dotted line, and the dotted line will extend for as long as you are required to apply the palm mute technique. This combines increments of 3, then 4, except we're double picking each note. And we're also palm muting. And this combination is written in 4/4 timing using triplets and 16th notes. You might have to listen to it a couple times before you play it. Vibrato is excellent for building strength. It's achieved by continuously bending a note and returning it to its original pitch. To apply this technique, allow your thumb of your playing hand to hang over the neck, right above your middle finger, and use the appropriate finger to hold the note that you're playing, and bend or shake the string by twisting your forearm. If I'm not holding a guitar, it looks like this. You don't want to bend your wrist, and you do not want to bend your fingers. You just want to twist your wrist this way while holding a note. You might find it difficult to apply vibrato to your pinky. If so, substitute those notes with your ring finger by sliding it up to whichever note you want to play. Vibrato is usually difficult to achieve on the first string of most guitars. are non-scale notes played between scale notes. Passing tones may not sound desirable outside of a sequence, but they can be used to connect two scale notes. In this exercise, the initials P, T have been placed above each passing tone. Here's a combination of passing tones with vibrato. Play this exercise at a slow pace, holding each note for a 4 count. Bend the string for each count. We're going to play it at 125 BPM. The hammer-on technique is achieved by picking a note, then hammering to a higher note on the same string with your free finger or free fingers. You could pick an open note like this, open on the 5th string and hammer to the 2nd fret of the 5th string. Another way you can do it is pick a fretted note and just hammer on to higher notes on that fret. You can apply the sound level of your hammer-on by how hard or how soft you apply this technique. There's a soft one, and there's a harder one. Now here's an exercise that combines hammer-ons with passing tones and gives us a very rapid sounding musical movement. There is a slide at the end of the first 2 measures. The symbol for a slide is a slash with an SL above it. Slides are achieved by sliding your finger up or down the fretboard while holding a note. In the piece below, slide the 11th fret notes to the 12th fret on the 6th and 5th string. This combines hammer-ons and increments of 3. This combo gets a little tricky if you're not careful. The first measure is simple enough. You pick the first note, then hammer on to the next 2. In the second measure, you pick the 3rd fret and hammer on to the 5th fret. Then you have to pick the 2nd fret on the 5th string. For the 3rd measure, return to pick the 5th fret on the 6th string, then pick the 2nd fret on the 5th string and hammer to the 3rd fret. Take this technique and application slow at first, and once you get used to it, you'll find that you can achieve some lightning fast runs. Here it is at 165 BPM. Here are the octave positions for the scale patterns that we've already learned. The names of the notes and the fingerings for these positions are the same as you've already learned in section 3 on this video. The only difference is they are played 1 octave or 12 frets higher in pitch. To help you learn these new positions, try combining them with other scale positions in the natural scale. Also, try them out with your favorite rhythms, techniques, and applications. I'm using a Epiphone Future custom guitar. And the reason I chose this guitar for this section is because we have 24 frets on this guitar, unlike the other ones. And since we're playing octave positions, I'd like to be able to play as much as possible. If you have an acoustic guitar, it might be hard for you to get past the shoulder of the guitar. I actually come around when I play an acoustic and play as high as I can, but it takes quite the amount of dexterity and finger strength. So this section is mainly for electric guitar players. But don't cheat yourself. If you got an acoustic, go ahead and try it out. We're going to start with the F or 4th position at 170 beats per minute. These higher positions are kind of hard for me to get to, but I'm going to attempt it just for the sake of the viewer. The opposite of hammer-ons, pull-offs are achieved by picking a fretted note, then pulling the finger that you're using to fret that note away from the fretboard at a 45-degree angle, producing a lower pitched note on the same string, but without picking that second note. The note being produced by the pull-off can be fretted or open. So here on the first string, as a demonstration, with my 3rd finger, I'll hold down the 3rd fret, pick that note and then pull that finger away at a 45-degree angle, and that sounds my first finger, or the first fret being held by my first finger. You could do it one more time to go down to the E note. You can move them around. This is a combination of a hammer-on and a pull-off called a hammer-pull, or in reverse it would be a pull-hammer. You hammer to a note and you pull off. You could do it fast, you could do it slow, and then the pull hammer would be the opposite. Pull off and then hammer on. Pull off, hammer on. Fast or slow. Now, the reason I chose to play this section with an acoustic guitar is because I've heard a lot of players tell me that hammer-ons and pull-offs are more for electric players or electric guitars, and that is just totally false. Some of the greatest acoustic guitar players just tear up the guitar using hammer-ons and pull-offs. So I'm going to apply this section. Right now I want to show you there's two ways to do this. We're going to first look at the C section. And I should call that not the C section, but C position. And there's two ways you can apply the hammer pull to a position. First is you can use the proper fingering throughout. So here we go, playing C, hammer pull, to the D note, hammer pull, then to the next string, hammer pull, to the G note, hammer pull. And another way to do the hammer pull is kind of the cheater way, but it is in fact easier for a lot of people. We'll play the same scale position. You do the hammer pull with the index and ring finger, and instead of using the middle finger and the pinky for the D to E note, you just slide the index and ring finger up, and then back to the 8th fret for the next string, and then slide it up to the 10th fret, and then to the 9th fret, 10th fret, 9th, 10th, and then in reverse. So whichever one is easier for you, I definitely recommend trying both. It's a great exercise, if anything, just to strengthen up the fingers by doing it the traditional way. Now let's go ahead and play this at the 12th fret. We'll start with the E position. And I'm just demonstrating this up high on an acoustic to show you that it can be done. You can manipulate your hands to get up there and get higher notes. So let's go ahead with the hammer pull, and in reverse it'll be the pull hammer on the E or 3rd position. Here's the hammer pull with increments of 3. For this combination, pick a note only when you change strings. Use hammer-ons and pull-offs for all same string notes. Here it is at 100 BPM. Slides are achieved by picking a fretted note and sliding it without releasing pressure. You can slide it up or down, but basically you want to stay on the same string and apply pressure as high or as low as you slide. Here we're going to play increments of 3, but on one string, and we're going to slide. Basically we'll start open, hammer onto a note, and then slide up to another scale note. That's 3 notes, 1, 2, 3. Then we slide back, that's 1, 2, 3, and then slide back, 1, 2, 3, slide back to 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Here it is for you at a slow tempo of 125 BPM. This combination is great for working your way up and down the fretboard. By sliding to a 4th note on each string, you're moving up or down to the next scale position. Let's play it at a slow tempo of 160 BPM. This can be a great exercise to get to know the fretboard. Instead of starting on the 6th string for an ascending run, start with an open note on the 5th or 4th string. Another idea for a descending run, start above the 17th fret on the 2nd or 3rd string. The most obvious place to start with a guitar solo is to start on the root note of the chord you're playing, but you can really spice up your leads by starting with harmony notes. For example, if you're starting a lead or solo over a G chord, the obvious starting point would be G. However, you can make your leads more interesting by starting off on the other notes like B and D that make up the G chord. So here's an example starting with a B note. And starting with a D note. And always remember, you're playing in a key based on your scale. Any scale note will fit in a passing sequence. Most will work if you hold them for a duration. Just stay within the scale and you'll always be safe. If by chance you do land on a note that sounds off, quickly slide, hammer, or play the next scale note and you'll be fine. This technique is called volume swells. It is limited to the electric guitar, giving it a violin or cello type sound. It's achieved by playing a note with your guitar's volume knob off, and then increase the volume while holding the note. You could also achieve this by hammering the notes. It's not going to be as loud as when you just pick them, but you hammer the note. Another technique to use with volume swells is vibrato. You could get an almost violin type sound. The lower notes will sound like a cello or a bass. And the higher notes you got a violin or viola. Music is made up of more than notes. Sometimes the lack of a note can make a piece stand out. Just as there are symbols for the notes you play, there are also symbols for the times when you don't play notes. These symbols are called rests. There are rest symbols for every note symbol. Here is a comparison chart for notes and their equal rests. In the first two measures, we have whole notes, then whole rests. Next are half notes and half rests, and the last two measures show quarter notes and quarter rests. On this screen, there are eighth notes followed by eighth rests, finally 16th notes and 16th rests. Here are some basic rhythms combining notes and rests. Repeat each rhythm over and over again until you're comfortable playing it. At first, apply each rhythm to one note. When you can play a rhythm smoothly, then apply it to chords and multiple scale notes. Here's rhythm 1 applied to the open D string. And now applied to an E chord. Rhythm 2 rests on the third count. Here it is applied to an E chord. Rhythm 3 rests for counts 1 and 2. Here's an E chord with rhythm 3. Rhythm 4 played with an E chord. Now let's play rhythm 4 to the E or third scale position. Here's rhythm 5 played with an F chord. Played with the F or fourth position. Here's rhythm 6 played with a G chord. Rhythm 6 played to the G position. And now rhythm 7 played with the A position. Here's rhythm 8 played with a B diminished chord. Here's rhythm 9 played with a C chord. Here's rhythm 9 played to the C or first scale position. Damping is used to end the duration of a note being played. For For example, on the 6th string, play the 12th fret, and when the note is sounded, release pressure with your finger just enough so that the note is stopped. Make sure that your finger is still touching the string when you do so. You want to lift your finger just enough to stop the sounding. If you lift too far away, you might cause an unwanted note. Another way to dampen the string is to rest the palm of your picking hand on the string after the note has been sounded. So here's damping applied to the G or 5th position, but in the octave position, way up here. We're going to do it at 125 BPM. Harmonics produce a chime-like sound. It's achieved by placing your finger just above the indicated fret on the string you're picking. Don't apply pressure to the string, and do not allow any of your other fingers to touch the string. In fact, after the harmonic is picked, you can pull your hands completely away from the string. So on the 5th fret, we'll go ahead and lightly touch the 1st string right above the 5th fret wire, and then pull away. And notice the difference. Here's a fretted 5th fret, and here's the harmonic. Now, natural harmonics can only be achieved on the 5th fret, 7th, the 12th fret, sometimes the 17th, and the 19th. Actually, the 17th, it's hard to achieve on the 1st string, but it's easier on the other strings, but it's just not as loud as the other harmonics. You can also detect a slight harmonic on the open notes by just lightly touching the string above the nut. Listen to it without the harmonics and with the harmonics. Take some time to experiment with harmonics above other frets. You'll find that you could achieve harmonics in other areas on the string, however they will not sound as clear as the notes that have been given. Artificial or pinch harmonics are achieved by fretting a note, and with your picking hand, allow the edge of your thumb to touch the string when you pick it. This will produce a higher squealing pitch to the note that you have played. Here's the note by itself, naturally, and here's the note with the pinch harmonic. Zakk Wylde, the guitarist for Ozzy Osbourne and Black Label Society, is a master at pinch harmonics. So for this example, I'm using a custom shop Zakk Wylde Les Paul with EMG pickups. You can get a great effect by combining artificial harmonics and vibrato. Here it is slowly at 50 BPM. Picking hand harmonics or palm harmonics. Using a finger or the palm of your picking hand, lightly touch the string 12 frets above the fretted note while picking that note. As I'll demonstrate, there are two ways to achieve these harmonics: without a pick you can place your index finger of your picking hand 12 frets above the fretted note and pick with your middle finger or ring finger. To play this just using a finger with no picks, I'm going to hold the C note, the 3rd fret of the 5th string, and I'm going to lightly touch the string, the same string, all the way up on the 15th fret. I'm going to touch the string right above the fret wire, and then using my free fingers, any one of these will do, but I'm going to use my middle finger, I'll get a light harmonic by picking behind that fretted note. Another way to achieve this is while holding a pick, you position your palm so that it's right above the 15th fret and just pick as normal. So if you're not very good at finger picking, you could also do this with a pick by adjusting your palm and getting it exactly 12 frets above the fretted note. You can also achieve these types of harmonics on other areas of the string. Most noticeable are 5, 7, and 12 frets above the fretted note. Tapping is achieved by using the index or middle finger of your picking hand to hammer or tap a fret, producing a pitch, then you pull off to an open or a fretted note. The musical notation for tapping is a plus sign or a T. Now this here is my workhorse. It's a Gibson J150, and it's been all over the country with me, so it's got a lot of battle scars. You'll see I'm wearing away a new sound hole right here with my picking hand. But I wanted to sneak it into this video, but also I wanted to demonstrate that tapping isn't just for electric guitar. You can achieve some really great sound effects by using this technique with acoustic guitar. Just to give you a slow exercise, something that's really repetitive and something that you can easily get the hang of doing. Now, I use my middle finger to tap because a lot of times I'm using a pick. I'll use a pick to strum or maybe to play individual notes. And some people will actually put the pick down and then go to their index finger to tap. Or I've seen other people like Eddie Van Halen take the pick and put it underneath their index finger, or their middle finger, so they can use their index finger to tap again. I just got in the habit of using my middle finger and sometimes my ring finger, so I could use both of them. And this allows me to switch real quickly to tapping. Here's a quick exercise for you. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to tap the 12th fret of the 5th string, pull off to the open, and then hammer onto the 3rd and 5th. Real slow. And we'll do a little bit faster, zooming in onto the tapping finger. For the tap hammer technique, I'm going to pretty much follow the B or 7th position with my tapping finger. And so here I'll be on the 7th fret for most of the tapping. I'll follow that from the 6th string all the way to the 3rd string. The 2nd string I'll go to the 8th fret just to follow the scale pattern, but then back to the 7th fret for the 1st string. And for my playing hand, I'm going to be tapping the open position and following that all the way up through. So instead of playing this, Now I'll be tapping the 7th fret and mixing that in with the other notes. In this example, we'll move our tapping finger while our fretboard fingers play the same notes. So starting with the tapping finger, I'm basically playing the notes from the B or 7th scale position. And with my fretboard hand, I'm playing the F position. Here we'll move our fretboard fingers while our tapping finger plays the same note. I'm going to tap the 12th fret starting on the 6th string. I'll pull off to the open note, and then I'll play the 6th string notes from the F position. Tap, open, the 6th string notes for the G position. Tap, open, the A position notes. Tap, open, B position notes. Next, I'll go to the A string and repeat the same process. Tap, pull, hammer. I'm going to tap on the 12th fret. I'm going to pull off to my pinky note here on the 8th fret, pull off to the 7th, pull off to the 5th, pull off to the open, hammer on back to the 5th, 7th, and 8th. And then I'm going to follow that pattern to the next string. I'll use the 12th fret for the tap, 8th, 6th, 5th, open, 5th, 6th, 8th. And then on the 3rd string, 12th, 7, 5, 4, open, 4, 5, 7. There's two ways to tap harmonics. One is to tap the way we've been tapping throughout this section, where you hammer on to the fretboard and pull off to a harmonic. Remember, the harmonic, you're just lightly touching the string above the fret wire there. You're not pushing down or anything like that. You just got your finger right above it to capture the harmonic. So what we're going to do is run through all 6 strings. I'll tap the 12th fret, pull off to the 5th fret, and then tap the 12th fret, pull off to the 7th fret. You'll notice that the 7th fret will ring out a little bit better than the 5th fret. All right, let's give it a try. You can also tap harmonics above the fretted note. This is achieved by tapping the fret wire 5, 7, or 12 frets above a fretted note or chord. So let's play the B note right there on the 2nd fret of the 5th string, and if we go up to the 7th fret, and you're going to tap not the fret, it's not a hammer-on, you're going to tap the fret wire, and you achieve a harmonic that way. Now go up from the 7th fret, let's go up to the 9th fret, because remember, we could do it 5 frets above a fretted note, we could do it 7 frets above a fretted note. So here's 5, here's 7, and here's 12 frets above. Now you can use this with scale patterns, and you could also use it with chords. This tap hammer technique is applied so the tapping hand follows the movement of the fret hand as it moves down in pitch in movements of 2 and then back up in pitch. So what we're doing is we're taking this pattern here, and then this pattern, then this pattern, all the way down the line. With this tap hammer technique, it's going to be applied so that the tapping hand follows the fret hand as it moves down in pitch, and then the tapping hand will move up in pitch, and the playing hand will follow the tapping hand up in pitch. Here it is slowly. Apply tapping to as many different positions as you could think of. You could leave your fretboard hand in the same spot but move your tapping hand to new positions. You could use your tapping hand on the same fret but move your fretboard hand to different positions. Lengthen or shorten the distance between your tapping and fretboard hands. There are an infinite number of possibilities when it comes to tapping. Spend some serious time exploring the possibilities of this technique. Use your own creativity to combine scale notes, different strings, techniques, applications, rhythms, and even picking techniques along with your tapping.